here. Viam, are you filled with a sense of joy and excitement like you've never been filled with before?
The jackal was quite good, yes.
Not the jackal. There's the pipit. It's that small 3 or 4 pixels that you can see there moving about. The striped pipit. And I won't take any contradiction as to which kind of pipit it is, because if you are contradicting me, it's only because, well, you can't actually see it. Just a couple of pixels moving there. That is the striped pipit. I was hoping to see him. Haha. Along with the side-striped jackal. Now I see that the jackal is actually largely solitary. I've been confusing its social structure with that of the black-backed version. So the side-striped, often solitary, and it's the animal that gives the jackalberry its name. So that jackal will be very excited by the fact that so many of the jackalberries out here at the moment are fruiting. Okay, Jamie's still with her elephants. Let's go back to them and find out what they think of her.
Okay, at this point, the elephants have found the lions, and they are racing away. There are other vehicles in the sighting, so unfortunately we can't go and watch, we just have to sit and listen. But what's fascinating about this is the communication that's happening with the herd that we have currently and the one that's found the lions. Because there's deep rumbles moving between the different elephants, those low-pitched sounds that they make. Big girl. She looks so happy with that mouthful. Sometimes elephants can look so contented with their lot in life. Immediately, the rest of the elephants are starting to move out of the thick vegetation that they were in and slowly gathering a bit closer together. And fascinating. A big girl. Hi. Okay, we'll keep movements nice and slow. Hello, big girls. Hi. It's okay. We just happen to be sitting here. Hello, little one. Today is Close Elephant Encounter Day. And off they go, right behind the vehicle. How lovely. I'm definitely having a wonderful time. I'm having a great day today. Elephants everywhere. Elephants coming right up to the vehicle. The whole herd is now gathering again. The older females immediately taking charge of the situation. Rumbling every now and again to the different herd members. All the old females, look at this one. Oh, she's beautiful. Taking charge, directing the little ones away from the danger. And oh, how I wish I could understand exactly what was being said. I have a vague idea. Some of the females have these enormous tusks on them. Gathering the little ones, making sure that they're safe. They're not panicked, but they are just making sure that they keep control of what's going on. Another big one. Oh, young. I'm going to just be keeping an eye on what's happening this side of me as well. Hello, big girl. I think we're about to be caught in the middle of the sighting. Can hear the vehicles coming. Stations, I've got your audio. I'm on Leadwood at the moment with Slumby and Love. Hello, little one. Okay, I can hear the sounds of the vehicle as well. This changes things. It makes life a bit more precarious because there's a vehicle now following the lions as well. So we're just going to keep an eye on what's happening. Obviously, where I am now, if the lions pop out, we've got relatively limited options in terms of where we can go. We're surrounded close to 270 degrees by elephants, so we're just keeping an eye out. That's why I picked up the Game Drive channel and just spoke to them and let them know that I am here and that I would prefer it if they didn't come tumbling straight into me. Hello, little one. For this exact reason. So that's why our elephants, not panicked, but they're obviously talking to the other elephants and got an idea of where to move their little ones to. The wisdom of these animals is phenomenal, and the herd's life exists around protecting little ones like this one. He's so cute. Nope, now is not time to suckle. Mommy wants to get you out of the way. Stretch up. Oh shame, I don't think it got anything there. Mom keeping the baby moving. Of course, trunk coordination takes some time to learn, especially when you're eating on the run. Comfort of Mom's tail. And this little one, just over a year old. What's wrong, girl? She's just going to stop and let the baby suckle for a little bit. I don't think she's going to linger too long, though. I think she's going to keep it moving. Yeah. Move it a bit further towards the safety of the rest of the herd. Lions are not a threat to elephants. At least 3 lionesses are not a threat to elephants. It would be a very brave lion indeed that risks hunting an elephant. However, elephants in general do not like predators. They would prefer to avoid them, and they very often go out of their way to chase them. Wendy, welcome on this sunset safari. I hope you are enjoying this as much as I am. It is a thoroughly marvellous afternoon, full of my favourite big grey creatures. Wendy, yes you can. You can feel elephant rumbles through the ground. You can feel it vibrating through your feet. You can also feel it in your chest. When they're right up close to you, you get that brrr. It's like a lion roar almost. A lion roar you can also feel. And it's something that whenever I've had guests that experience that, they always remark on. But if you do sit, and sometimes when I'm on my own with elephants, I sometimes just sit with my eyes closed. Obviously, once I've checked that everything's okay, I just sit with my eyes closed and I listen and I feel the vibrations of them talking to each other. Because it is something truly spectacular to experience. All has relaxed, the elephants have gone quiet, and I think they've done a job of chasing the lions away. I'm going to stay with this herd for a little bit longer, but while we wait for them to move closer, let's go over to James with some wildebeest.
Right, everybody, I think we're live. We have got wildebeest there. And wildebeest, of course, I a very long time indeed. They're on Arathusa, and they're just grazing through what can only be described as a fairly dense patch of strychnos, which is the black monkey thorn, and also of combretum, the bush willow. Now, there are not many patches on Djuma, I have to say, that look like this anymore. Elephants have come through and taken them out, and I think that's because This particular area has fallen victim to possibly a fire and then a drought after that fire. And if you look around, the trees here are not mature. They've all coppiced, many stumps coming from the ground, or many trunks coming from the ground. They're not single-trunked trees, and that's because they've been devoured many times by the elephants. And I just think the elephants haven't come through here for some reason. I'm not sure what reason that would be, but they've certainly maintained the vegetation at this kind of, in this manner, with all the trees sort of producing these multi-stemmed plants. Anyway, the wildebeest are not eating the trees. They're walking through here trying to find the last bits of grass. And this is probably the same herd that we've spent quite a lot of time with, the Arathusa herd. I'm not sure where our little herd from quarantine clearings went. This could be it. Not the best wildebeest sighting, but I thought a very good idea just to show you that there are still wildebeest around here. They are not common in the Sabi Sands like you'd expect them to be. Of course, there is as numerous as the grains of sand on the sea, on the beach, when you go to East Africa. But here, there's something of a rarity. I think they're rather splendid fellows. Alright, we'll carry on off to the west here. Let's head back to Jamie and her elephants.
And back with us once again, and our lovely elephant herd. I am just keeping a close ear to the ground, not literally, but listening to the game drive channel and also the sound of the vehicles moving off-road. It feels as though they're about to get to us, which would not be ideal for us. We obviously would have to move out of the sighting since it's already an existing sighting. So if the vehicles get any closer to us, then we will have to leave the elephants. I don't think they're going to, though, because I don't think the lions have any intention of jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. Little ones. You will do as an appropriate place to rest my trunk and my food while I eat. I want this. I'm bigger, and I say I want this. Panic! Oh no! Panic! It was an impala, you silly elephant! It was an impala! Bye, everybody. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. But that was hilarious. Sometimes elephants are very smart, and sometimes they're animals with herd instincts. Because that was an impala. I thought it was a lion. It came streaking past me, behind me, and into the bushes. One poor, terrified impala that obviously stumbled into the wrong neighborhood. You know, impala can be pretty intimidating, especially if you're a massive elephant. Then they're really scary. All we needed to do was toss in a couple of Franklins there and we would have had a situation completely out of hand. Well, I think our elephant sighting's over. Poof. Gone. And for my next trick, I will make a leopard appear out of the bushes. Yay! That was hilarious. That was absolutely marvelous. Total panic. Total. They didn't even stop to look at what they were panicking at. One of them got a fright and they all ran. Dust everywhere. Not a sound from any of them. Just flat out stiff-tailed panic. May I introduce you to the smartest animals in the bush? Sometimes they make a mistake too. To be fair to them, they're on edge because of what's happening with the lions. So they've heard what's happening with the other herd. There's our impala. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to make your day any worse. Can you imagine the thoughts that are going through that poor impala's head? Wandering around, minding my own business. The next thing, there's elephants thundering everywhere. Poor thing. That was really funny. This poor impala, you just can't pick a good direction to go in. Come on, buddy. There's lions that way and there's elephants that way. I suppose this is the best direction. Dispatch says that they were laughing so hard that they couldn't even catch their breath. Dispatch, you see, this is what Dispatch is a new viewer of ours, or a relatively new viewer. Rapidly becoming a safari addict. I'm sorry, I'm just going to let this impala go. I feel sorry for it now. It's had such a rough afternoon. Shame. Definitely on alert now. So Dispatch, you're absolutely right. It's just one of those things that it's the marvel about live safaris. 1 minute you're sitting with a relaxed elephant herd, the next day are sort of several hundred tons of panic-stricken elephant racing away from an antelope that weighs roughly the same weight I do. Very scary. But I'm glad, Dispatch, that you managed to catch your breath sufficiently to continue on. I ran the serious risk of getting the giggles there because that was funny. Lynn's asked a very, very difficult question to answer, and it's one that's I often wonder about. Now, Lynn is wanting to know when the elephants get as close as they do to us, and whether you're afraid or you're excited, you cannot remain unaffected unless you are completely dispassionate, which of course we are not. One cannot remain unaffected by the impact of that elephant so close. So Lynn's question is, well, can they pick up this steenbokkie? Baby steenbokkie. Shall I go forward? I did see it running away from the impala. I didn't realize it was going to stop. Sorry, Lynn. Distraction. Okay, we're still with this poor impala. This poor impala just can't win today. Which way are you going? I want to go left. Tell you what, I'll go left, you go right. If you could just stay away from the elephants, okay? Because, you know, we quite like looking at them and you quite like terrorizing them. I mean, look at you. Terrifying. I get chills and shivers just looking at him. Most intimidating. Just let him go. I'm sorry, Lynn. Lynn's question is a really, really nice one, and I don't know the answer to it. Can the elephant detect the rise of adrenaline in your body when they come right up close to us? Do I believe that the elephants can sense fear and sadness and discomfort? Yes, more so than the impala can. Most definitely. This impala has no real idea what's going on. I don't blame him. Basically, he wants to go and munch on some grass and would like to do so unimpeded by large grey shapes in the vegetation. Lynn, I don't know. I do think, like horses can sense fear, dogs can sense fear. It's all in our body language, and of course animals are much better at reading body language than most people, because that's how they communicate. Why do I talk to the elephants? I think first of all, it's because it's about the tone. Obviously they don't understand a word I'm saying, but they do understand tone. That I know, that I completely and absolutely firmly believe. They understand if you are cross or speaking calmly to them. And the other reason I often do it is actually, it's become a habit. I've always done it, but I also think it becomes a comfort for your guests in the back as well. When you've spoken to them, if you keep that tone, it also comforts them, because I was just thinking, a photo popped up on my Facebook of an incident that I had where I was in an elephant sighting and somebody else parked me in, and we had a big musk bull like that experience come right up to the vehicle, slightly more aggressively, and one of the guests in the other vehicle tried to jump out. She tried to leap out of the car. And in hindsight, that could have gone absolutely horribly wrong, because I'm obviously not watching what the guests in another vehicle are doing, but the elephant would have come through us to get to her. It was a very, very uncomfortable situation. Luckily for me, a 17-year-old teenage girl had the presence of mind to grab this person and hold her down, and hold her head down so she couldn't see what was going on. Thank goodness. But it could have, and I actually took her aside afterwards and told her what a wonderful job she'd done. But that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that it's a habit I've fallen into to calm guests down when they are scared like that. But it's all about explaining what is going on, and the fact that the elephant isn't angry with you or wanting to kill you. Are their senses sensitive enough to pick up the rise in cortisol and adrenaline that we get? I don't know. I'd love to see if there's any studies done into it. I'm going to give that some more thought. I think it's a beautiful question, and I'm going to do some more research into it as well. It is starting to...
Right, we've just come to Arathusa. I mean, I hesitate to use the term dam at this stage. Really not much going on here in terms of water, but there are two very interesting things. Well, three. The fish eagles, you've just seen a fish eagle there. There is something that looks like it's crash-landed into the bog there. It looks like a large bog monster. That's hippopotamus, and it's alive. It's there on purpose. It is not there by mistake. It's walked into that, and that's all the water and moisture that there is left here, which is a bit sad. But off shining to the eastern side of this little waterhole is a massive journey of giraffe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Isn't that amazing? I just think that's too wonderful. Now the fish eagles are eating barbel or catfish. So I'm going to give you one more look at them, and then we're going to drive around the other side there and enjoy those giraffe. I think it's just a most fantastic sighting. Juvenile fish eagles, there were a few adults around, and I know that many of you've spent a bit of time here over the last little while, and there have been quite a few fish eagle sightings. There's an adult there. I'm just keeping an eye on the giraffe, but let's just have a look down here. You can see them eating now. There we are, and I'm pretty sure that's a fairly disgusting catfish. Disgusting because if you've ever eaten a catfish, they really are not very nice unless you soak them in water for a while, and then they are quite nice. I don't think he soaked his in water though. Yuck. Right, let's go across to the... No, you nearly had me there, Liam. You nearly had me, but you didn't quite. I'm going to try and get across there just a little bit more quickly, because I think they're going to go off into the bushes, and then it won't be so easy to see them. There was another one here. 8 giraffes. Hello, Mrs. Giraffe. There she is, looking deeply surprised by her existence. And I think she's watching the other fish eagles that have been flying in and out of here. Calling, beautiful call of the fish eagle, for many the quintessential sound of Africa. Some guinea fowl down there. Isn't that nice? I love watching guinea fowl. They also look much like the giraffe, deeply surprised by their existence. Let's go on and catch the other little journey of giraffe here. Many guinea fowl now on the right hand side, which we're not going to stop for. Get out of the way, thank you so much. Yes, good evening. Hello. Right, these giraffe have disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Oh, there's one thundering across the road. Right, here we go. Should get a nice view of them in here. Going through the woodland as they depart. Oh, it's getting a bit chilly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least 7 here. That's a cow. And 3 sort of youngsters there with another cow. Isn't that nice? That's not a sighting we see every day, you know. It's quite unusual, and even VM is he's not objecting strongly, which is what he normally does when we see giraffe. Very nice, and in the background perhaps you can hear the dulcet tones of the arrow-marked babbler and also the staff of Arathusa. I know I've said this to you before a few times, but I always love this time of the day in these camps because everyone is relaxed and they're waiting for the evening meal, everything's set up and, you know, clean and pristine, and then everyone has this little bit of time to relax as the sun goes down, and it's such a, I know it's an experience guests very seldom get because they're always out on game drive, but if you live out here, it's a very special time in the actual camps. They're quiet and very peaceful places, especially if you happen to have a large water body in front of your camp, and there'll be 8 giraffes and a hippo and a number of fish eagles there. Not to forget the guinea fowl. They're eating ziziphus there, a buffalo thorn, very thorny, but very good eating, and that's actually good eating for humans too. Often asked if you could survive out here without food. Well, if you were able to survive without food, ziziphus, or at least not without food, without bought food, if you were able to survive out here, the ziziphus would be a very important source of forage for you. Imagine quite a nice impala steak wrapped in ziziphus leaves. What do you think, Vim?
Some ostrich egg on the side.
With some ostrich egg on the side, yes. Now, Mary Ellen, you make a very, very good point. Of course, landed on our shores today and arrived in our bushveld. What did you call him earlier? The Duke of Sydney. That's right, VM called him the Duke of Sydney. Hayden Turner has arrived, and Mary Ellen, you say maybe these giraffes have arrived to welcome him. Well, I can't think of any other reason why they'd have come around here. They've been very scarce of late, so maybe indeed they have arrived in order that they might greet the Duke of Sydney. And if you are wondering why Hayden's coming, we are doing a whole schools event over the course of the next week through the Taronga Zoo, where Hayden works. And we're going to be broadcasting, I think, to about 100 schools, if I'm not mistaken. And old HT will be back in the hot seat, driving and, well, just being his wonderful self for the kids and, by bonus, for all of you. So that'll be for the next week, starting on Monday. He may or may not have a practice drive or two tomorrow. We're not sure yet what he wants to do. But certainly from Monday morning, he will be out. And we will be going early on Monday, and you can find it on our blog. There is a blog about it, but we will be going slightly early, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, as opposed to 6:30 to 9:30, which is just not very symmetrical, is it? So 6 to 9 feels much better just feels much better if you're a bit OCD. Eating knobthorn as well, which is even more thorny. And guarri bushes. Now you know when animals are eating the guarri bushes that we're definitely into the dry season, because they are not often browsed. Extensive chemical defensive mechanisms they have, and it's obviously, of course, why the leopards and lions so often use the guarri bushes to mark their territory. Oh, Sarah, you're wondering about the spelling of Ziziphus. Sarah, it's Z-I-Z, Ziz, Z-I-Z-I-P-H-U-S, Z-I-Z-I-P-H-U-S, Ziziphus. Say it a few times, you'll feel infinitely good about the world. Wiem, much to your greatest excitement, there's another giraffe coming out in front of us, this time a big bull. Look at him, isn't he? He's a really grizzled old fellow. Oh, do you see that great big sort of amount of his median horn, or that calcification of his skull, is actually broken through the skin there. He's not to be trifled with. He's got that paraphilaria down his neck. Is he missing an eye?
He is.
He don't got no eye there. That is unbelievable. Gee whiz. He's a pirate. He's the pirate giraffe. Terrifying. Let's not get too close, Vim. I notice that you don't mind filming him on account of the fact that his eye is missing. That is amazing. He is old. He is not young. He has seen many fights, and I suspect he probably lost that in a fight, everyone. And he's just, it's interesting, there was a sound there from one of them, and they don't make sounds often that we can hear. It was a He is interested in a little bit of action, I think, testing these females to see if they're ready to mate. Now, if we had seen that eye when it had been injured, it would have been leaking, and it would have been disgusting. And oh, look, he's doing the phlegm and grimace. You see that? Monkey's alarm calling. Monkeys calling from over there. They do see a huge distance. Just wondering if something hasn't come down to the water to drink here. So that giraffe doing the phlegm and grimace, lifting the nose up. Yeah, they've stopped now. No, they haven't. Okay, something's up here. The phlegm and grimace, just testing to see if they're opening up a tract to the organ of Jacobson in the brain. And all right, let's go across to Jamie quickly. She's got another giraffe.
Oh, well, James goes racing off to see what the monkeys are up to. Look at this. Welcome back, HT. The giraffe indeed have come back to say hello to Hayden. Well, certainly I will say that we certainly have been bereft of giraffe recently, and all of a sudden we've had an influx of them. Definitely not something I'm going to complain about, because sitting with them is always a pleasure. It has been a truly peaceful afternoon, apart from some interesting elephants. This giraffe is the perfect way to end off the light daytime part of our afternoon safari. And what my plans are for the rest of the day, we'll spend a bit longer with this gentleman, and then we're going to go and look for Karula. Herbert tells me that he had her tracks around Weaver's Nest Road, so that's what we're going to do. Oh, and he has chosen the best looking tree of all of them. So appetizing with all of its long white thorns. I think it might actually be a... Oh my goodness, the name's just gone out of my head. It's an acacia tree, and it's Acacia robusta. I can't remember what it's called, I'm sorry. I've just drawn a blank. It's a name that I've known my whole life, and I suddenly can't remember what this acacia tree is called. I say my whole life, I've known for a considerable percentage of my whole life. And he's giving us, we'll move swiftly onwards, giving us a perfect demonstration of his long melanin-impregnated tongue. As I said that, he of course turned his head away so that you've got no view of his long melanin-impregnated tongue. Darkened with melanin, of course, because it's a very tough pigment that allows him to do this. James Richard has been doing some background reading on our animals, as he always does. And welcome, JR. Yes, a giraffe can walk whilst ruminating. I have seen them do that. I have never seen, you hardly ever see, any of the other ruminants do that. And that is because, one of the big reasons is because it's their equivalent of sleep in certain situations. So they can, once they settle down peacefully to have a ruminating session, basically what they're doing is their brainwaves start to imitate those of somebody in the deep stages of sleep. Now, ruminating, because they can't afford to switch off completely for long periods of time, is the way that we can. But the sort of long periods of ruminating allows them to catch up on a little bit of the recovery that sleep provides. And I'm just going to let us have one last view of him. He is going to slowly disappear. I'm trying to think if I've seen any of the other ruminants do that, walk and ruminate at the same time. I don't think so. Of course, if they are interrupted, then they will stop the ruminating process and walk off, and then stop and continue to ruminate. I think I've seen kudu. I have this vague feeling I've seen kudu ruminate at the same time as walking, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Be careful, mister. There's lions not far from where you are, and if you're not careful, there's also an elephant herd that might get a fright if you walk past. And that head motion is completely contrary to his natural positioning. So he's actually got to contract the muscles at the base of his neck to pull his head downwards like that. And that's because he's fighting, instead of gravity, he's fighting the natural tension of a very thick, incredibly thick tendon. Thick and powerful tendon that runs along the back of his neck and holds the head upright. So that the natural position is actually up rather than leaning forward like this, which makes total sense. Because imagine how exhausted your neck muscles would have to be, or would get, holding up a weight as heavy as a giraffe's head on the top of a 2-meter long neck or a 6-foot long neck. Definitely wouldn't get very comfortable after a while. A beautiful, rich, dark color. I think I've seen him here before. In fact, I think I've seen him very recently with Viam on Twin Dams Road. Oh. Here we go again. Elephants are all wandering through, finding the lions and chasing them. The poor Styx females are not having the best of times. I'm just going to turn on my Game Drive channel so I can hear what's happening with that sighting and who is there. I wonder if they didn't go back and try and chase the lions away again. Okay, it is time for us to move, so as to make space for a bypassing vehicle. Here we go, at least a brief view of his tongue. Let's shift around and make space for them, and leave our giraffe for now. How's it, guys? How are you? No, I don't think I've ever met him before. Alright, let's go and head towards Weaver's Nest Road and find out what's happening there. Perhaps Karula will decide to pop out for our last few moments. Ooh, Jamie, you're naughty. Trespassing. I'm only doing a turn though. I'm sure I won't get into trouble for that. Let's go and see if Karula won't pop out for our last few moments. Yay! Lovely to hear from Dagan in Kansas City, who is a new viewer and wants to know a little bit more about the experience and the number of hours spent in terms of doing something like this in order to reach a level of expertise down. Fabulous to have you on board, and may I just for your question, and I'm glad that you are loving the live safari experience. So Dagan, I don't think any of us, funnily enough, will claim to be masters at tracking. We have met people who are masters at tracking, and they have spent more time than you can possibly imagine, because days can be quite long out here. You're talking about work cycles where there's no weekends, no public holidays. You work a drive in the morning, a drive in the afternoon. You end up spending about the equivalent of 10 hours or so. If you're working at a lodge, 10 or so hours each and every day, Monday through to Sunday, and then you do it all again, rinse, repeat. Those people who have devoted their lives to tracking, the master tracker Renius from Londolozi, we're okay at tracking. We find things, but those master trackers and somebody like Herbert, you just watch them, their eye skips from track to track, tracking what feels like things that are barely existent, the tiniest smudge in the soil, and they pick up that it is tracks like that. I mean, we spend the equivalent amount of time in the bush, but we don't have that sort of amount of time to spend tracking and honing our tracking skills. Every now and again we do get a little bit of time to spend on it, and it's such a pleasure to do. But that is what happens, and it's an interesting one, because the most important part of your learning that one does as a guide, it doesn't matter how long you do a training course for, whether it's for 3 weeks or a year, ultimately you learn as you go along, and you develop instincts as to what is good and what is bad and what is right and what is wrong. And it's far more valuable than any amount of book learning. Book learning is important too, factual knowledge is important as well, but spending time out in the bush every single day is what is really truly valuable about being a safari guide. And I mean, how lucky are we? We get paid to do this. Quite incredible, really. I can't think of a better way to spend my Saturday afternoon. Trundling around the bush, looking at elephants, and now looking for an elephant. Now, this is one of Karula's favorite spots. I'm trying to decide which approach we should go to. And from what I understand from Herbert, her tracks crossed Gowrie Main into this area. I think he said they were to the east rather than to the west. But he did tell me to go and check Treehouse Dam, and who am I to argue with the master tracker that is Herbert? That we are going to go to Treehouse Dam and have a look and see what we can find there. And I think Herbert, in terms of success rate, he's been pretty good at finding Karula and her cubs over the last few weeks since he started working at Djuma. I hear that James has been wandering outside of the vehicle on Arathusa. Let's go and see what he's found for you to look at.
Right. Well, we didn't find anything around the dam there. The monkey stopped alarm calling. I wonder if somebody in the camp just didn't toss a stone at one of them or something like that. It's perfectly normal. The monkeys become a real problem in the camps. Anyway, they stopped alarming. The giraffe melted off into the western horizon, and we then drove off along this road that we were originally going to come along called Parallel Road, hoping to see if we could find Shadow. But in the meantime, a whole lot of feathers. And they've definitely come from a dove that was killed here. And when you see a crime scene like this, of course, one wants to know what or who the perpetrator was. I'm not going to touch those feathers, mainly because I have a habit of sort of rubbing my face, and you don't want the bits and pieces of parasitic insecta and various others that live on birds to get into your mouth. But I think that was an African wildcat. And I think it was an African wildcat because it's very fastidiously picked all the feathers out. It hasn't carried it away, and I think it's eaten there quickly, hasn't swallowed the feathers and melted off into the bush. And you know, owning house cats like many of you do, you will know that when a house cat catches a bird like that, that's basically what they leave. If it had been, say, an African hawk eagle or something like that, they would have carried it off up into a tree. I think it's probably a bit small for a leopard to have killed, and a leopard will generally not eat out in the open like that. They'll take it off into the shelter. So I'm going to go with something like an African wildcat, maybe a serval, maybe even something like a caracal, which I've never seen here before. So that's what happened there. Quite an interesting little crime scene. We're going to pop up now towards the eastern boundary of Djuma. Betty, you want to know what the story is with VM and giraffes. The story, Betty, is that VM apparently finds giraffe extremely boring to film because they don't do anything. Is that correct? VM?
Maybe. I won't confirm or deny.
Yes, VM says he's not confirming or denying anything, but that's basically what it is. He has these sort of pet peeves, if you like, from time to time. It was buffalo for a long time. For a long time, you couldn't get him to put the camera onto a buffalo. The only reason we got to see those giraffe was because there were 7 of them and one of them didn't have an eye, so he thought that was very entertaining. But he just would rather film sort of things eating giraffes. So oft times, if you find a giraffe and you say, "Look, VM, there's a giraffe," he says very morosely, "There's no lion eating it," or something like that. So that's why, Betty, I make mention of the fact that VM doesn't like to film giraffes. Darkness is falling. The temperature is plummeting, and I think we're in for a chilly night, but the afternoon temperature today is indicative of the fact that we are coming to the end of the winter now, which is rather special. I savour this month, I really do, with the smells of the smoke and the dry leaves and the dust, mainly because it is a month of expectations. We'll just give you a quick view there of the moon. Have you got it there? There we are. Well done, Vim. Hello, Mick. You're in Johannesburg. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us. Very nice to hear from the old hometown. You want to know about the vegetation in the Arathusa Dam, and all the animals come and eat it. They will. The reason you're not seeing a lot of that happening now is because that mud is so thick that animals can very quickly become mired in it. The hippo is kind of designed to get in and out of mud like that, but if an impala or a bushbuck or something like that was to come along there and try and eat that vegetation, it would almost certainly become stuck, and that is going to happen there. I almost guarantee that at some stage while that water's drying out, some desperate antelope is going to walk into the middle of its sink and be unable to get out. And I mean, and ideally, time to tell you about when in December we hadn't had any rain. It was just blinding heat day after blinding heat day. Andrew and I on Christmas Day went down to Buffelshoek Dam to see what was going on there, and we found 2 impala stuck in the dam, a mother and her lamb, and I think the lamb had got stuck and the mother had tried to go and fetch her out, and they both got stuck, and quite against any sort of policy of non-intervention, Andrew and I went in there and we used these strange bungee cords. Have you got many bungees there, Vimpy? See if I can find you what we used. No, we don't have one here. A bungee cord is kind of an elastic cable, and we got into the mud, pulled them out, and we felt very good about ourselves because it was Christmas Day. And our excuse was that, well, you see, a dam is a man-made thing, so it's okay if we did that. I stand by that. But it's a horrible thing to see an animal stuck in distress in the mud. It really is not nice at all. All right, let's head across to Jamie. She's got the moon and a surprise.
The moon and a surprise indeed, but first... Isn't it absolutely beautiful? Look at that crater. The one thing that this camera allows us to do is get right up close. Ah, what's it? It's now waxing crescent. Must be. We've just passed full moon. The Cheshire Cat smile is how I always think of it. Beautiful. Well done, Gendre. A stunning view of the moon. And Jupiter is behind it. So what Gendre is telling me is that we were actually talking about this earlier. We've been watching Jupiter get closer and closer and closer to the moon. It's now, what's it called? Converged. Gendre's forgotten as well. Oh, what is wrong with us today? Collation. Oculation. It's the Jupiter-lunar oculation. Yay! Bravo! Gendre and myself showing off our celestial knowledge. It is the Jupiter-lunar oculation. In other words, Jupiter is now behind the moon. As for your surprise, I think you might even have... Oh no, you won't have seen him. There he is. I completely forgot about this guy. And Gendre happened to remind me, so what a perfect way to continue our evening and spend a little bit of time with this male lion at the perfect time. There we go. Well, that was perfect timing. Thanks, boy. You're talking about lion roars right next to the vehicle. I could feel that vibration right through my entire body, particularly from my feet, sitting on the bottom of the vehicle. Gendre, you must have felt that as well. Gendre's got a smile from ear to ear. He looks like the moon. His crescent smile. He's gone straight back. Oh no, he's up. I was about to say he's gone straight back to sleep. It's very common to see a male lion roaring lying down. It actually helps for the sound to go further, basically amplifying it. I was about to say this is the perfect time to be sitting with a flat male lion, because there's a very good chance that he's going to get up and do something. He didn't get up, but he certainly treated us to a display of his vocal prowess. beautiful. There's nothing... You never get used to that. You never get used to the feeling of a lion roaring right next to the vehicle. Today has been a day of some of the most spectacular experiences that the bush has to offer. In almost a cliched way, but I don't mean it like that. The feel of a lion roaring next to your car. Something I always used to do was turn off all of the vehicle lights and make my guests sit in the dark if a lion was roaring next to us, just to feel what our ancestors and the previous explorers of this area must have felt whenever they heard that sound. We know that we're going to bed tonight in a nice, safe house. Imagine what sort of sound. As it starts to get dark, you get that anxious feeling, want to go home. And this is why. And some of you felt the vibrations of that lion roaring all the way across the world. Very special. Bright eyes. One more for us, boy. Please. It's amazing how they can do that and then go back to looking completely fast. Well, not fast asleep, but on their way to being fast asleep in a matter of split seconds. His dark lashed eyes and his nose slowly darkening with age. Important to remember, I know, and I always provide this caveat, you can't age a lion just by the colouring of their nose, but most lions' noses do go darker with age. Look at that. Piercing yellow eyes. We're going to sit with our male lion. Hopefully he gives us another roar before the end of the sunset safari. But before we do, I know that James would like to bid you all a good evening, so why don't you jump onto the back of Wendy so that he can say farewell.
So quick goodbye from me, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our drive. Zella, you're 11, and you say, oh goodness, hang on a second, sorry, the radio is going crazy. And it's your birthday. Throw that away. It's your birthday, and you say that you had a good time. I'm so glad you had a good time. And Kelly, you say that you're very happy that VM and John showed you those giraffe. That's very nice. I haven't met John myself, but I hope to meet him soon, because obviously he was quite close to where we were in those giraffe earlier on. So Kelly, John bids you a fond farewell, and from me, James, and VM, we both bid you all a fond farewell as well. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6:30. Until then, let's go back to Jamie and the lion.
And a big farewell to James, and I'm sure we will discuss the day's events over dinner tonight, and just talk about our various marvellous experiences, as we always do after a pleasant evening spent in the African bush. Come on, boy. One more for us, please, before the end. Mike has just called in. Some of the lions are calling around Torchwood, and they've found Amber Eyes and one of the male lions in Buffelshoek. And she is currently mating with one of his either brothers or cousins, part of the Birmingham Boy coalition. We started off our safari this afternoon talking about the way that the way that prides and the way that coalitions work, and we spoke about the fact we were with the Styx Pride. They were under the control, or underneath the territorial control, reign, perhaps is the best way of describing it, of a coalition called the Birmingham Boys. So for new viewers, this is one of the Birmingham Boys. He is, in fact, I think he's the largest of the oldest of the Birmingham Boys. He's known by some as Blondie, he's known by others as the Hoff, depends upon who you ask. His more official name out here, in terms of what the guides call him, is in fact the Hoff, which, you know, kind of makes me giggle every time I say it's the Hoff. It's intimidating. Anyway, moving on from names. This is the oldest of the Birmingham Boys. And while we're ending off with a lion sighting, for me I think this will go down as a drive spent with elephants once again. And they made my drive, they made my afternoon this afternoon. And not that the lions aren't wonderful as well, but Gracie, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that you were watching, and I'm so glad that we had so many really lovely elephants to show you. They truly were very special this afternoon, weren't they? And I know that they're one of Gracie's favourites. I'm so glad that we could share it with you, sweetheart. And we'll finish off with our last... Come on, boy. Come on, boy. You've got 4 minutes. 4 minutes. One more roar for us. Sorry, you've got 3 minutes and 40 seconds. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. He doesn't look terribly inclined. But then he didn't when we first turned the camera on to him, and look how that changed in a split second. So that territorial roar that we heard was for 2 reasons. One was to announce to the other males that he is the biggest and the baddest in the bush, and that they would be fools to attempt to usurp his territory. And that in turn plays a very, very important role in keeping those little cubs that we enjoyed spending time with this afternoon alive and well. It's his job to keep other males out of this territory and keep those cubs safe. And the other thing that he does is male lions get a bit lonely, especially when they've got their coalition members. And it's kind of going, guys, where are you? I'm here. Contact calling, because that roar travels the farthest. Contact calling to the rest of the Birmingham Boys. Mostly, though, it's just I'm here, this is my land. Don't even think about it. I'm big, I'm strong, I make a deep bass booming sound that travels through the ground and strikes fear into the hearts of all around me. And that in turn plays a very important role in a lion's life cycle. Excuse me. I feel like I've been doing the roaring, not him. Nearly lost my voice there for a second. And as the Olympic Games kick off, our champions of the sleeping challenge. Papa Bear, you want to know how old this lion is? I think that we've put him at around 5.5 years old. I could stand corrected on that. He's quite young still. He hasn't fully reached his prime. I think the oldest of them, he must be close to 5.5 now. Yes, 5.5 would be the rough age that I would put him at. I've actually met somebody recently who knows the Birmingham Boys from when they were cubs, and I'm going to try and dig up a little bit more in terms of information about them and their background before telling you anything more. But that is something that I'm working on and trying to find out, because there's nothing like it's one thing hearing it second hand and the sort of the rumor mill. It's a very different thing hearing it from somebody who actually spent time with them when they were cubs and watched them grow up as part of a pride. So I'm very curious to hear what he has to say, and I'll get back to you on that. Find out a little bit more about the true history of our Birmingham Boy coalition. Just, come on, boy, 60 seconds. Luckily, I've got my fantastic lion roar impression ready. No, that didn't work. Funny that. I listened to it very softly, but I thought it was pretty much spot on. And unfortunately, I think we're going to run out of time. And it's time for us to say goodbye. So a very big thank you to Gendre for all of his fantastic camera work and for not jumping off the vehicle whenever the elephants are close. We appreciate that more than you will ever know. As well as to Jerry and to Rebecca in Final Control. I hope that you had a wonderful time directing us. And a big thank you to all of you watching across the globe. Join us for the Sunrise Safari. Hopefully we'll have more exciting things planned. Bye-bye.